Hello, hello everyone. Oh my God, that's so interesting. I just noticed, so I'm sitting in front of a window and that's actually pretty great. And I see the reflection of the mountains that are actually this way. So that's like a kind of a great backdrop, who knows what you'll find and discover. So welcome everyone to day 3 of the Forbidden Emotions, the Key to Healing. And today what I wanted to talk about is finding relief. And I'm going to read actually part of the book. Hey Michelle, how are you? This is it's under Forbidden Emotion, Joy, but I want to read this part because it's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. When you learn, I have a cat that's showing up. When you learn to fully embrace the amazing guidance your emotions give you, you will show up differently for the most important person in your life, you. A byproduct of this is that you become more effective in your relationships with others. Once you learn the art of self-acceptance, you can affect lasting change. And the best way you can practice self-acceptance is with your emotions. As you allow yourself to feel your forbidden emotions more fully, you release them from your energy system. They are no longer buried alive in you, as Janice Berger says in Emotional Fitness. They no longer come out at inopportune times, and you learn to become more present with yourself. Years ago, I heard actress Deborah Ferrantino talk about what she loved about acting in an interview. She said something that stood out for me. She said, in acting, you get to say just the right thing at just the right moment, which you seldom get to do in real life. And that always stuck, hey Sharon, always stuck in my head. When she said that in the interview. I love acting because I get to say just the right thing in just the right moment. You seldom get to do that in real life. So talking today about, this is what I've noticed in my own journey with this, when I really sort of discovered and started calling them, these are forbidden emotions, because there's this set of emotions. Pretty much any emotion can be forbidden, meaning that's appropriate to feel, that's not. But as we learn to allow ourselves the freedom, and tapping is such an amazing technique to help us do that, then we give those emotions full flower, which they're meant to be there. Why, if you think about it this way, why would we be installed with all these different emotions, no matter what they are, if we weren't meant to feel them? Like, why would we have anger? Why? And I believe rage is really a byproduct of suppressing a ton of anger. But why would we have any emotion if we're not meant to feel it? We're installed with this incredible palette. And I always say this, there's so much energy that can be really positive in anger. Anger is both healthy and unhealthy. Hey, Finn, any emotion can be healthy and unhealthy, depending on what it is. But when we start to unhook from that and go, I'm just feeling this. And this is what I have found for myself, just due to what had happened in my life. As I started to work through these, what I noticed is that my need to do rant tapping for me became less and less and less. It's not that I still don't need it. It's not that I still don't use it. Because when I'm really upset, I do it. And I'm so glad that I have it. But the thing about this to me with the emotions is we're just looking for relief. And when you're looking for relief, it's like just that little spark of, like I said, my journey was, it's not like I went from the pit of despair to suddenly feeling positive. I didn't. My journey was, oh man, I'm noticing that I'm feeling less negatively about this stuff. It was just, I couldn't really describe it to anybody. It was just this feeling, this noticing that I'm just less upset. I'm just less negative. I'm just less in despair. And it doesn't mean that I don't go into those. I do, because, in a body, having a human experience, we're going to have them. And part of the self-acceptance is embracing all the emotions we have. And through that acceptance and learning to not make ourselves wrong for anything we feel is so transformative. I personally believe if you've tapped a lot and you're not finding relief from something, often what I would say, and I think this can get missed, is look at the judgment of self. Because it's highly likely that you're really judging yourself for how you feel, how you're thinking about something. And then if you're a law of attraction person and you throw in that, well, I must have attracted this, you know, my energy's wrong, I'm not aligned right, it's just another way to beat yourself up using the law of attraction to do it. So what I love about what Abraham Hicks talk about is the emotional scale, and I talk about this a bit in the book because I look at so many things and I find the things that make the most sense to me and sort of put them again together. Hey, Fiona. And what I found is, I'm going to go back to my story of 11 years ago when I'm not kidding, I did not sleep through the night for a year. I would always fall asleep, but I would wake up in total terror. I did not have tapping then. I found tapping because of that. And I was like, I would just lay in bed churning. And I was exposed to the law of attraction. And what I was doing was tormenting myself and telling myself, well, I should be thinking better about this. I should find the positive thoughts. But what I love about Abraham Hicks and the emotional guidance scale and when they talk about it, if you really look into this, what they're saying is it's too big of a leap to go from the pit of despair to like, I'm suddenly happy. And the problem is, especially in a lot of the personal development programs that are out there, that's pushed on us. We're taught like, you know, just do it. Put your big girl pants on. Put your big boy pants on. You can make it happen. You know, add more to your vision board. Blow it up. Make it, you know, focus on it every day. I have never been able to do visualization really well. I have yet to have a vision board where things came just for me and my personality. It was another way that I was using that to beat myself up. I know that's not true for everybody, but for me it was. And when I unhooked from that and was like, wait, no, and just started finding relief, that's what changed it. So what happened for me during that year that I didn't sleep because of everything that was going on is I woke up one morning, those of you that have been around have heard this story, and my entire body was covered in hives. And I looked in the mirror and this wasn't a judgmental thought, it was sort of an awakening thought. I thought, wow, Marti, you're really killing yourself here with all these thoughts. And not in a blamey way like you've got to think positive. It just shifted something in me in that moment. And so what I said, what came to me, and this is where I believe guidance and direction came to me. I didn't figure that out for myself. I sort of was in surrender mode, and then guidance and direction was able to come to me. It was like, just find one tiny thing to feel grateful about today. Like, and I'm talking tiny, like that guy let me into traffic, the cashier smiled at me. And what I was doing was finding relief. So what started to happen, which I didn't know then, but I understand now, is what I was slowly doing was turning that lens focus towards something that I could find to feel good about. 99% of my thoughts during the day, I guarantee you, were probably in the toilet. But what started to happen is, oh, that's right, I got to find something to feel okay about. So it was like I started to shift to start to find something. And then what I noticed over those next few months, which makes sense with cellular biology, is, oh, I'm not feeling quite so negative. Oh, I'm starting to feel better. Oh my gosh, now I'm actually starting to feel hopeful and good. And if you've ever struggled with that and thought, I've just got to think positive about this, I've just got to find the way out, I just invite you to consider you just want to look for relief. If you meet yourself exactly where you're at, if you are in the pit of despair, to try and tell yourself to get out of the pit of despair or just put your big girl pants on or your big boy pants on, if you're anything like me, doesn't work. It might be a temporary solution, but the energy of it is more like I'm going to bypass what I'm really feeling and just try and do this. And what I have found has been transformational is when you go deeper down into that emotion and use tapping. Oh my God, the despair that I feel. Oh my God. And I'm judging myself for being despairing. I'm telling myself I shouldn't feel this way. If you attend to the judgment, it's highly transformational. And again, just looking for relief. So if you do a tapping session and you're like, hey, you know, I don't feel great, but you know, my numbers have moved a bit. That's huge. Because I've also seen this a little bit sometimes in the tapping world, sort of this obsession, if you're using the SUD scale, to go from, if you're a high number, to I got to get it to a 0. I would invite you to consider, whose voice is that saying, I got to get it to a 0? To me, that's pressure. And it's like, that's like doubling down on yourself. And then if you don't get it to a 0, you know, the bully comes in and is like, you can't get it to a 0. But if you call in like, I'm just looking for relief here right now. I can tap more later, but I just want to see, have the numbers moved at all? And even if you're not a SUD scale person, if you just go, do I even feel better? It's not, do I feel a little lighter? Do I feel a little less negative? Does that feel a little less true? I say anchor that in. That's a win. Because what you're doing is that's an indication that you're starting to change the cellular biology in your body. And one last little quick science thing, and then we'll do some tapping, is that every thought we think, this is sort of Joe Dispenza arena material, every thought we think emits 50 to 70,000 neurochemicals into the bloodstream. Now, this is where you can pull on the law of attraction and beat the crap out of yourself for this and go, I got to stop thinking this thought, which is what I was doing, and it's pure torment. And that's why I say you can't stop the thoughts, but you can interrupt them. And that brought me tremendous relief. So, but what happens is the more you're thinking a thought, the more you're actually programming your cells for like thoughts. And as what tapping does is goes in, you don't have to stop the thoughts. If you're in the pit of despair, you don't have to pull yourself out of despair. You just have to interrupt the despairing thoughts. You might have a 2-month period where it's like, oh my God, but just keep interrupting it. One, that just brings relief to think, I don't have to try to think positively about something that is out of reach for me right now. You literally cannot do it physiologically because cellularly you're programmed towards the negative. So it's like tuning a piano. You'll keep going back to the negative and pick it up, and then you interrupt it, and you'll go back and you pick it up and you interrupt it, and you go back and you pick it up and then you interrupt it. And what you'll notice, and this is what happened for me, about every 60 days, those cells can tend to divide. And what happens is the new cells have more of a tendency towards the thoughts you've been thinking than the cells they came from. So what that's telling you, when you find relief through tapping, not like all of a sudden I'm thinking happy thoughts and I was in the pit of despair. It's like, no, I'm still in despair, but I'm little less in despair. I've at least interrupted it. And what you'll notice, and this is what I understand now, happened to me when I started to be like, just find one thing to feel okay about. It's interesting that it was about 60 days into that. I started, you know, I was noticing it all along that I'm like, I just feel a little less negative. And then around the 60 day, it might have been 90 days, my husband's like, I don't know what it is, but there's something different about you. And I was nowhere near like, you know, happy land and everything, you know, everything is beautiful and breaking out in song. But I had found tremendous relief. And that's huge. So to me, if you can switch it to, if you've been trained or taught, you know, like get it to a 0 or, you know, just think positive, it's just more pressure. And that doubles down on us. So learning to make it okay where you're at and just say, I'm just going to try and find some relief is huge. So let's tap. So before we tap, let's do this. Just call to mind something. If there's something that's going on for you right now and you're like, I don't want to feel this way. I'm trying to change it. I'm trying to think positive about it. This is still showing up in my world. And if you notice the bully judging you because you can't shift it and even tapping's not working on you, something, you'll know what it is. Just let it come to mind. And we're just going to go into this looking for relief. So you can rate it 0 to 10. How true does it feel? 10 is totally true. 0 is not at all. Like, how impossible does this feel that it's going to change? Could be 10. How possible that it will change? 0. So give it a rating. If you're not a ratings person, just notice how it feels. And we'll just start tapping. Karate chop. Even though this hasn't changed for me, despite all my efforts, and if I really pay attention, I am totally judging myself for this. I bet I'm telling myself, this should have changed by now. I choose to honor my feelings now. Even though I have these thoughts, this should have changed by now. But it hasn't. What if that's okay? What if I could have a new barometer to just find relief from the thoughts that plague me? I choose to accept myself anyway now. Even though this has haunted me for a while. I'm going to take my glasses off. And what if part of that is I'm judging myself for this? This should have changed by now. This should be different. But it's not. And what if I can find some relief? Wow, this should have changed by now. But I'm starting to see that I'm really judging myself for this. Maybe I've even tapped on this already. And yet still it plagues me. And what if there's a whole new way to see this? Because that voice in my head, that bully in my brain, can sound something like this. You're not aligning right with this. You should be over this by now. Maybe that voice isn't so in my face. Maybe it even sounds reasonable. Well, you're doing something wrong here. I mean, clearly. Otherwise, it would have changed by now. And what if those thoughts are that bully in my brain, the judge and jury over what should or shouldn't be happening in my life right now? And what if, as I catch that voice in the act, start to notice it and interrupt it, I find relief. And what if I could tell I'm finding relief because I feel less negative about this? Maybe I just feel a little less hopeless. Or maybe just a fraction more hopeful. And what if that's all indications that I'm actually changing my physiology and changing what's possible for me? And what if it's also possible that this thing that has plagued me for so long is still in my experience, not to punish me, not because I'm doing anything wrong or attracting the wrong stuff? What if it's not shifting just yet because the very thing that's been haunting me in my life is the very thing that will bring me back to a closer relationship with the force of love that runs this universe? And what if this force of love can guide and direct my steps? That's a different way to see this. Rather than it's my fault and I'm doing something wrong yet again. And I don't have to believe any of this yet. But I sure like the sound of that. And that can bring me some relief. To think the very thing that's plagued me is the very thing that's meant to bring me back to my authentic self and the force of love that runs it all. So take a breath. And if you found that helpful, go back and tap on it. You can change the words to God. You know, I always say the universe, dinosaurs, Fred Flintstone, whatever it means to you. But, I mean, think about it that way. Because often, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow. But the difference between, you know, resistance and non-resonance, I'll share it here. In the EFT world, too, we can say, like, procrastination, let's use that as an example, is kind of a big thing where it's like, well, if you're still procrastinating, there's some block, something that's in the way. That's absolutely possible. It's possible. And it also could be that something's not moving, or your procrastination is because the timing is not right yet. So it's really another way to see this instead of, you know, everything's about resistance. If this isn't happening for me, if I'm still procrastinating, clearly I still have some other block. And again, could be true. But another option is, what if that has nothing to do with it? What if I'm actually sort of being blocked from doing this because the timings, things are being lined up so that the perfect timing gets revealed. So it's an option. Oh, you're so welcome, Sharon. So all that topic is definitely next book, even more so. But that's why I say this book to me is really to help us get in touch and uncover the forbidden emotions and to allow that and to give them self-acceptance. And through that, I believe you're going to find that the authentic self has the space to come through, and it's not like you have to try to be spiritual or try to find it. So I loved it. We'll certainly do it regularly. Thanks, Marty. I arrived late, but fortunately we'll be able to listen to your words before the tapping. Yesterday I talked about you at my, I don't know what that is. Jungian session. Oh, therapy session. Thanks, Marcia. That's so sweet. Finn, thank you so much. Sharon, you as well. Meenakshi, Fiona, Finn, Michelle. Happy to have you all here. And we'll see you back here tomorrow with day 4. Bye for now. Take good care, everyone.